Time to talk some shit with the J Squared Podcast. Here we go.
Nostravia.
What is going on?
It's already recording. I don't even need to look at that. You can.
No, I know we're Polish.
You can put it in front of you if you want.
All right. So first things first, can we please talk about this R. Kelly documentary and how fucked you have to be for like a network like Lifetime to come out with a series on how you are a pedophile while you're still relevant. You know, it's not like R. Kelly's already in jail.
He's relevant,
bro. He's super relevant still. R. Kelly.
What's the last song he came out with?
I don't know.
I'm gonna piss
George,
on you.
check that shit out. But it's thing. He's not. It's not like they're saying it about I don't know Stevie Wonder. You know, like somebody that's super. 10 years ago, R. Kelly was like the king of R&B. You know, and I think what makes it crazier is this.
I had to go back even further.
He was big like the 90s. The 90s to the very
20
early,
years ago.
I don't know. I heard he was the king of R&P.
But I just to me, what's crazy is how much we let slide while it was happening. Because it's not like this shit was all under the rug and now it's coming out 20 years later. Like, while it was happening, it was still in the news. You know, he went to trial. It came out that he was, you know, marrying and having sex with 14 and 15-year-old girls. And it's like everybody just kind of turned a blind eye. Now, I was obviously young, but you're older than me. So that was your sick, fucked up generation. Like, what were y'all thinking?
Yeah. What do you mean? What were we thinking? We didn't marry 16-year-old boys.
No, but you kept listening to Bump and Grind and buying his albums. Like,
well, he was relevant then.
But he was raving chicks then. Like, he was...
in all honesty, I saw him walk off an interview because she kept bringing it up, like the allegations, and I feel like this is the feeling I get when I see something like this happening, just like with Cosby, just like I don't know if it's I don't want to discredit what these women are saying and whatever, blah blah. I never want to do that, but in the same tongue, why do they wait so long? And then all of a sudden, it's just this big attack on this one person. And I'm not saying that what he did is good. I'm not saying what he did is...
Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah, right. Well, I definitely don't want to come across as like, yeah, well, you know what, the guy's totally innocent and, you know, he's a good guy, and that's not what I'm saying.
I thought you were auditioning for R. Kelly's new lawyer. That's what I thought you were doing right there.
Really? Yeah. Is that how the way it come across? Well, it's definitely not that. It's just, it bothers me to some degree that it's like everybody just jumps on that bandwagon. Oh, yeah, he touched me too. And, oh, he did, you know.
But see, the crazy thing is, man, and I completely understand where you're coming from, but this didn't take long to come out. You know, back in, I think it was like 06 or 08, he went on trial for like 20-something counts of child pornography. So it was coming out like as it was happening, and he was being charged with it. For some reason, you know, there was a not guilty verdict, and then it just got let go. Like, it was just like, all right, we're just going to pretend that never happened. And now TLC, I guess, just threw it back on, you know.
Lifetime
back on
or TLC?
Oh, Lifetime, I'm sorry.
Right.
Keep giving credit to TLC, but yeah, Lifetime. And now it's like relevant again, and with the way the internet is now and social media and how easy it is to spread and share information.
Shit, yeah.
Now it's like, dude, you really can't hide. Before it was like, you know, if you weren't watching the news or reading the newspaper, you didn't really know what was going on.
Right. But, that's true.
Well, I think there's got to be an element of, you know, as far as we talk about when these people were popular, like R. Kelly or whatnot. I think
great entertainer,
right? But I think obviously these people have money, so they're able to keep things quiet
by paying off victims
exactly
and shit
for such a period of time, and then when they reach the point where maybe they run out of funds or you know there's too many things out now, so they can't hide from it anymore. That's when you start to see more people come out because think of how much power these people have. And then the people that they do these things to, who was that other guy? Harvey Weinstein. I mean, think of how powerful that guy was. He could take your career and just crush it.
Yeah,
just like that. And now when people come out, so we talk about, oh, you know, it takes a while for people to actually get the courage to come out. That's really, I think, that's at the main point of it is these people are scared. They're afraid. They don't. What if I come out? No one's going to believe me. Then you're putting your shit out there. You know what I mean?
But I mean, to some degree, when you weigh the two, okay, all right, am I going to lose my career or am I going to keep my self-dignity? To you, yourself, like, what would you... If that happened to me, I'd weigh the two and I go, all right, listen, I'm not getting fucked and touched and all this other stuff and then just, oh, I'll keep it quiet while you're successful and blah, blah, blah. Fuck my job.
But that's you.
You know what I mean?
But
How
that's
much though?
Yeah, but that's you as an almost 40-year-old man. That's
Right.
not you as a 14-year-old
39.
girl. You know what I mean, though? 30.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
I mean,
you're
think
right.
about it.
You're right.
You don't think like you did when you were 14.
Hmm.
No, of course not.
You know what
Absolutely
I mean?
right.
It's like a girl who she gets.
Do you think that some people, because of their stature, because of their, where they're at, that some people false claim?
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, they
jump on
piggyback on. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
False claims definitely be at, and it gets tough because I feel like we're at this point now where we're realizing how harmful it is to women when we do discredit and blame victims, and our knee-jerk reaction is to assume that the victim is lying because he's famous. We say they just want money,
Right.
and I think it's really harmful to victims and survivors, but I feel like the opposite end of that is just as detrimental to somebody that might be innocent, and they're getting these false allegations against them.
Right.
Because that can really kill your career. I mean, God forbid, somebody ever just came out and said to you or me, like, hey, he raped me. Whether it's true or not, that's always going to be how somebody remembers you.
Right.
So I think both ends of that spectrum are pretty tough, man. And when you're dealing with he said, she said,
And children.
especially, I mean, there's really and when you're talking about stuff that happened 20 years ago, how certain can anybody be with what really went down? But with R. Kelly, what makes this one so crazy is, man, the facts is that, like, we can say, like, we don't know what happened, but he did actually marry Aaliyah when she was 15 years old, and he was, I think, 27. You know what I mean?
And so I believe, if I remember correctly, there are certain states on the mainland of America that the consent is 14.
I
believe
don't know
Alabama.
if that's accurate. George, can you check that for us? But I don't know if that's accurate. It could be. But in any case, what I know is the documents were forged.
Right.
And I think when you're dealing with an age of consent, it's tough because you start talking about legality and where you ask.
Right.
But I feel like that's something where there's just a common sense kind of morality behind that. Like if you're 27 years old and Mexico says it's legal for you to marry a 13-year-old girl, does that mean you should do it?
Well,
Or does that make it okay? Or should it be legal? That's a real.
but remember,
sticky
you were
slope.
born in America, and
yeah, don't forget that.
well, no, I'm getting to a point. You were born in America, where obviously that stuff is forbidden. It's taboo.
It's a
blah, blah,
cultural
blah.
kind of thing.
Right. The rest of the world is a whole different story. All of your Asian countries are very, very young age. Even before our laws, before the legality of America, people used to marry very young ages. That
Speaking
used
of
to be-
marrying young age, did you find anything on where the?
Yeah, so it says basically federally it's 12 is the consent age.
That's
But
in the
it's,
United
but
States.
that's federally in the United States, but it says that it goes down to the state courts. Usually it just ends up in the state courts, which is between 16 and 18.
All right, so in any state, no matter what, that was illegal for him to marry her.
Hmm.
But and like I said, I think she was either 14 or 15, and they forged documents to be able to get married. So that right there, I feel like when all these other allegations and stuff starts piling out, we can always revert back to that and say, listen, it's more than likely true. Like that was probably not a one-time thing where you fell in love with like a little girl. It's just sick shit, man. It's dark shit.
It
It's
is.
crazy. as you
There's
can
there's definitely there's a lust factor, and that's just like, ugh, man, that's creepy. As
lust.
fuck.
I can respect lust. I can't respect what he's doing.
Well,
That's
what
a-
is
that's
it?
a-
What else do you want
That's,
to call
that's
it?
a predatory, controlling kind of thing, not
Yeah.
lust. Like you and I
Right.
can lust after, a grown woman or grown men if you.
Well, no,
you
when I
swing
say
that
lust,
way,
I'm
but-
saying like some people lust after, like we talked, I think, in the last episode. Maybe I didn't even put it in the last episode, but I mean, some people they have sex with their cars. Some people have sex with animals. Some
Yeah,
people
but I think
have
that just goes down to a mental condition or something that's not ticking correctly
yeah.
for you to have sex with your car, sex with
it's
an
got to be
animal or
closely
whatever.
tied to lust, right?
Wait, is lust purely sexual?
I think so.
Because
I think
sometimes
so.
I lust after like
I think it's
a
sexual.
cheeseburger or something. But
But I don't know if you
That's
lust
bad.
over it, but you want something.
And me too, man.
Just because you smoke
Sometimes
and you
I
want a
lo-
cheeseburger
I'm just
doesn't mean
saying,
you're
like,
lusting.
I lust after a warm apple pie.
I mean, that's a different definition of having your meat between buns,
Right,
but
right. But no, I had to like start to. I'm like second guessing myself because I'm like, man, like
I think
if
it's
lust
sexual.
is purely sexual, then
I mean, I think a more accurate word for that instance would be crave.
True.
Like lust.
I have a hankering.
Yeah, right.
All I picture right now is like some kind of Burger King commercial with like a deep voice. Like, come here, Whopper. Let me show you what I'm gonna do to you.
I don't know.
Look at the way
I don't
that
ever.
lettuce is.
I don't want to make it
dripping
sound
off
like
those-
I don't ever want to make it sound like I'm sticking up for a pedophile or a rapist or whatever.
Or a cheeseburger.
Again.
However, I try to step back like several steps and look at like a big picture of the whole thing. And it seems to be more common than not that a lot of people are jumping on this bandwagon. Whether it probably has happened, whatever.
I think they call that devil's advocate.
But the now PC culture, and everybody's a victim of something. Like, you can't compliment a woman without her taking it the wrong way. You can't, I saw a woman walking down the streets in New York. This is a viral video on YouTube talking about how predatory men were because they're going, hey, have a good day. And she's taking it as like, oh, you're trying to get in my pants. Yeah. Like, come on. You're getting a little extreme, So I'm not saying that that's exactly what happened with R. Kelly and those victims and et cetera, but I tend to look at it like, you know what, it's probably like 80% true, which is good enough for me. Hey, lock him up, beat him up, kill him. I don't care. He's fucking with little kids, and I don't jive with that.
I think ultimately that's a good way to look at it. However, I tend to, with these cases, try to look at them like not the big picture and what's going on with society, but this specific case, and look at it with some pragmatism, that
objectivity.
Yeah, when you look at, and again, I'm getting most of my facts from this documentary that I just watched, which, if you've ever watched a documentary, they're always really like, geared and biased in trying to get you to feel a certain way. They're trying to get you to form a specific opinion. So I try to always remove that from my head and then just, I'll watch some shit and be like, well, that seems pretty interesting. And then look it up a little bit,
right.
And see, when you look at just, the objective facts, where do they stand? And I don't know, man, I just can't get over the fact that, he forged documents to marry a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And then they just continue to trend, and so many people close to him say what he did. Have you watched any of the videos yet or no?
Some.
For anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, by the way, there's a documentary out called Surviving R. Kelly on Lifetime, and it just kind of, it's a bunch of testimonials about him being a manipulative predator and holding young girls hostage and having sex with them. It's really disgusting shit, actually. Don't watch it with your kids.
But even if you think back to, like, I don't know how familiar you guys are as far as the music industry, but, like, even if you go back to Jerry Lee Lewis married his 14-year-old cousin when he was at the height of his career.
Yep. They talked about that in the show.
And again, this is a different time, right? I mean, it's not the same time, but does the value really change?
Well, I think there's something that has to be said when somebody has all the time and all the money. They tend to get really, literally they can have anything. So their inhibitions are, they kind of let go.
They feel like they're untouchable also, like when you have that money and that power.
And when you consider somebody, like, so this is kind of similar to the whole Michael Jackson thing, right? The whole, little bit. Somebody with that kind of money, that kind of time, that kind of power, that kind of influence. So, like, when I look at Michael Jackson's case, he doesn't have to touch little boys in America. He can go over to Singapore, where everybody's doing it, and touch all the boys want. Nobody will say anything.
Yeah, but that's a long flight.
You know what I'm saying? It is a long flight, and they don't serve lunch.
No, I think it comes back to age difference. I mean, what was in the 50s, 60s, if somebody were to live to 65, 70 years old, you know what I mean? I feel like it's just different. I mean, now we're living to 100 years old. You know what I mean? If you're 21, there's no reason for you to need to.
Is that a fact that we're living longer now?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Life expectancy is consistently going up.
To be centenarians, are we going?
It's always been on an uptrend, always.
Well, I'm saying, like, today, like, are we now living past 100?
Not on average.
Oh, no, I was
probably
saying
on average.
for men, probably, like, I don't know, 85,
80?
90 or something like that.
85? Okay, yeah, okay. I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you saying?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just saying that the difference from examples from back then to now is different. But, I mean, it all comes back to the same thing, isn't it just for the courts to decide? When there's an issue with two people, even if it comes out so many years later.
I guess, yeah, that's really
it just
all
comes down to the courts to decide, and then you just have to fall back on the court. cases that are the same.
But
Yeah.
but it raises like a really deep issue that you could talk about here. It's like, why do these things happen? Is it just because these people have money? Is it just because they have a overinflated ego, or is it deeper than that?
I think it's a combination of
Well,
all.
you definitely
specifically
got to
with
talk
R.
about.
Kelly.
Well, you got to talk about some psychological stuff here. I mean, look
Well,
at
you got to think about it too. Most of these guys are 18, 19, 20, even younger, and they go crazy and they're on tour. They have millions of dollars, and I mean, look what happened to even like Mac Miller.
Yeah.
You know, he was rapping, having a good old time, got into drugs, and
He
then on
died.
one of his songs, he literally said, "It's like it's just too easy to take drugs and do whatever I want because I got money to blow now. It's just a lot easier when you have an issue, whether it's mental or psychological, and then you want to try to combat that issue, and you find a drug that helps you ease out of that issue, and then now you're a millionaire, you can just go crazy on that drug or whatever else. And I think it's the same thing where you have so much money now. Like, so say another example for what we're talking about now is Machine Gun Kelly, MGK. Right? He started rapping. He was like 15, and then by 18 he was a millionaire. Now he's got multi-millions. He did something like 200 plus tour stops in a year, and you can't tell me that he doesn't have settlements out the ass every single week coming from this girl or that girl that did this or did that.
I'm sure
on some bus somewhere. He's
And-
got to have lawyers that are just ready to go, and he probably just budgets it.
Well,
yeah, but
brings
that
up
doesn't
a
mean he's
concept.
going to ultimately touch little boys either, though, or marry.
Well,
little,
no, but it
young
comes
girls.
it comes down to the same thing. What if 10 girls come on his tour bus, and then all of a sudden this girl's 15?
Yeah, no, I
You know.
totally agree with you. I just feel like a lot of it is, especially talking about Michael Jackson, right? You brought him up. Psychological damage, like all the stuff that kid went through. He was a superstar, not at 15. He was a superstar.
Oh, I know.
What? Like,
He's been in front of millions his whole life. He never had a regular childhood.
And obviously that's not.
That'll make you socially awkward, which he is.
Yeah, and I'm not condoning, obviously, what he was alleged to have done or have proven to have done, but it just bodes the question, like, why
Watch the table because
Oh yeah, sorry.
That's right. Good.
So,
What
why are these things happening? Like how do we prevent them? It's fine that they're happening, right? Like, well, it's not fine, but like
Not fine at all, sir.
right? Of course.
It's fine that they're happening. That's the title for the podcast. It's fine that it's happening.
I like that.
No, but this shit's happening. But it's like how do we, I mean, to catch a predator?
I don't think there is a way of. I think it's I think every being has their thing that turns them on, and whatever that may be.
What's
right?
yours?
No way.
Michael Jackson. No.
Hey,
Sick.
there we are.
And then I can switch back. But right now I don't have a cable.
Yeah.
So I actually went through your router. So I'm actually going from my phone to your router and from the router to the computer
Sick.
because I don't have a cable.
And then when you
You
pull
don't
up an
consent to
article,
It's not the first time.
I
You went from
literally
the
once I
router
log
to
into
the-
your IP address, it's amazing what I can pull up. I could probably pull up massive histories from your computer
don't do
that you
that.
delete.
Don't
No,
do
this is-
And
It's
now
not
you
the
can
first time
switch.
he's going from the router to the monitor. So
But now you can switch from that to whatever you're looking up.
Well, right now, if I were to record, I would just be recording my screen. And this is a full screen, so yeah, I can switch.
That's
back.
actually not my
That's pretty
router.
sick.
It's his upstairs.
Oh, so don't look up the browser history.
It has nothing to do with me.
So,
But anyway, what I was going to say is that I think there's also possibly, again, I'm playing devil's advocate like I always do, but I mean that there's some people that know that most of the time it gets settled out of court. They can make some decent money just with an allegation, because obviously the pop star or the guy, he's just like, hey, look, you're going to tarnish my reputation. Here, we'll give you this.
yeah,
Shut
that's
up.
sick.
We don't want to go to court. We don't want to do any of that. So, like, they know that they could pocket some change, just allegedly
Wanna try
getting it
this?
out there.
and I understand. I totally understand. your
If you
point
download
there.
this app, it's called IP Camera. Then I can use your phone.
It's up to you.
I don't have. I mean, I can try it because I'm using my. I break phones like you wouldn't believe. I probably have 8 phones in my.
I'm curious, though. I'll pose you a question. Do you think that, obviously the value systems have changed a lot in society now, right?
I
But-
think so, yeah.
Right. But do you think that those type of behaviors are more prevalent now in society? I don't mean accepted, because obviously they're not accepted
Yeah, they're
by
not
anybody
accepted.
but me, according to
I
me,
think
right?
they're more I think they're more advertised now that we have social media. The average person is exposed to it more,
Right.
So it seems more prevalent.
And there are more people too. You know, there's a lot
people
more
will
people.
always be people.
Well, I just asked because you see shows like
Catch a
Sketch
Predator,
Predator, right? You sort of wonder.
Which I think is a bullshit show.
Isn't that entrapment? Like I was just gonna say that. Isn't that really entrapment? I mean, yeah, I get that it's horrible. You know, the guy's 30 years old, is horrible, but this guy's sitting in his living room and this girl's sending random pictures saying, I'm alone in my house, I'm super lonely.
But you know what?
The guy gets all trapped into it, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm 15," and some of these guys just don't care. They'll take the risk just to be with this girl.
Those guys never talked to a minor.
No,
Obviously, they can't talk to a minor out of legality reasons. So did they really commit a crime?
Well, it's the same thing with that. There's a show on TV now where they put a car, like a trap car, in a neighborhood with its keys running and the window down.
Well,
and
that's different.
Somebody steals it, but would that guy steal that car if he didn't have that opportunity?
Yeah, well, what they're proving
It
is
still doesn't matter because it's not his. That's trespassing onto somebody else's property. I mean, you're going out of your way to actually steal that car.
Yeah, but it's the same thing because some of these guys are going 2-3 hours out of their way to have sex with this 15-year-old that they know is 15.
Well, what they're proving intent.
But the reality is that they're not 15. It's actually some legal age person.
Oh yeah, like 22 playing.
But they're still
15.
proving intent. They're still proving intent, and that's all that they need to prove. They prove that's why you went there.
That's a rough patch, man, because
It's probably not too rough because they're getting arrested.
Yeah,
So.
I mean,
I think what happens behind the scenes is that they have to have a confession by the guy, and what they do is they put massive pressure on the guy, saying, "Hey, look, we have video."
Why are you saying that though? Like, what
Because
makes you
the
think?
legality of it.
have you seen half of these guys?
Oh, yeah,
Have you
they're
seen
gonna-
them?
they're gonna settle.
They
They're gonna
definitely
settle.
look
I
like.
am
I feel like
again.
you're making these assumptions right now, and again, I don't know either way.
No, this is what I've seen on the show.
So you've seen them get let go after not confessing, or
No, not let go, but you can
they're
tell
gonna
like
plead
there's a
out
lot
anyway.
of stuff that happens for TV, meaning the cops come in and blah blah blah.
Right.
They take him into a room. I think he has to confess to a crime for them to I think.
No,
I'm
I
not
think
sure.
I think it's a the to after the woman says that she's 15 online. I think any text or message after that is automatically a crime. And then what I think that they do is they arrest.
That can't be true because I could say that I'm 10, and if you're talking to me, you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying?
Sexually explicit though.
Yeah. Like
Yeah, but I'm not really 10. So
Well, no, I know, but if you tell
You know?
me that you're 10, and then I keep pushing you to meet you,
and I'm
in a
actually
sexual-
40.
Yeah.
that
Well, I
I
mean,
guess
that
that
could
could
be
get great because now can you legally prosecute somebody for thinking they did something
Right, it's
illegal?
like Minority Report. You ever seen that movie with Tom
Yeah,
Cruise?
that's a great movie.
It's like
Great
you.
movie.
It's like you convincing me, and now I actually believe that I robbed a bank, but I never actually robbed a bank.
Or
Can I go to jail for thinking I robbed a bank and I'm okay with it?
piggybacking off of what you're saying, in my lifetime, there were times where I really felt like killing a motherfucker. Like, I'm serious. Like, I wanted to fucking kill a motherfucker. Should I go to jail because I felt that way?
Yes.
You know?
Did you have to travel around to look for motherfuckers, or
No.
I'm just curious. Like, did you
travel around to look for
I think that's a little different. I think
No, but
the
you said you just
equivalent
wanted
of
to
that.
kill.
I'm saying
the equivalent
intent.
of that. Hear me out. The equivalent of that would be me saying, "Hey, you know that dude you want to kill, Jay? Yes, he's over at Stop and Shop right now in a parking lot, asleep in his car. I have a gun for you. Let's meet him there. You can kill him." And then you say, "Okay, I'm on my way." That's like similar to this catch a predator shit. Not just feeling that you're gonna kill
I
him.
mean,
Could the
you're
guy
proving
in court-
intent. You're proving criminal intent. Like, what's the intention there?
Yeah.
If you think that you're talking to a 13-year-old,
Oh, wait a second. That actually is a law.
You have to
It's
prove
called
intent,
conspiracy.
so
No, you don't.
the-
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off
No,
right
no.
there. But conspiracy is a crime. So if you're going and planning on having sex with a minor, that's conspiracy to commit whatever that crime
yeah,
is.
I mean,
you know?
these guys are like, oh, I can't wait to be inside you. I'm gonna come over your house on this day,
Yeah,
and
but
then
th-
and
but
then they
think about
show
that.
up on that day.
I want
What's
to make
the
jokes
diff-
about
let me-
this,
let me-
but it's so sick.
Let me ask you,
You
what's
should.
the difference?
Let's
What
hold
is
you
the
back.
difference between those guys, saying those things, and you and I joking about it, and I'm acting like a little girl? Like, what is the difference?
Well, then it's still not the police job to do that. They're going to entrap you, or they're going to put you into that situation. They're going to prove that they have intent, which is enough to arrest you, and then it's out of their hands. They write the report and they go on. You're going to have to talk to the district
Well, look, if
attorney
someone-
who's going to plead you out or whatever.
Yeah, ultimately, I think it's pretty easy to tell based on a transcription of messages that your plans were to go have sex with somebody that you believe to be a minor.
And that's why I think they for legality reasons, because
No.
I think they can actually throw it out of court. I think.
But I say that's what I'm saying.
I think they need a confession.
I have a problem with you saying that. Because
With what?
you're
That
with
they
you
need a
saying that I
confession?
think that they need a confession because you don't
Yeah.
have any any grounds or any
Well, no, I've seen it on the show.
research.
gotta be-
No- like
I
nothing
mean-
was done for you to form that opinion. You're just
Absolutely, I
thinking.
just told you. I saw it on the show.
You saw on the show that they
They
weren't able
interview-
to.
They brought this guy into a room and they interrogate him, and they're looking for a confession.
And if they
No, I
don't
think
get the
that-
confession, the guy goes free.
That I don't know.
No,
you don't
no,
see
I
that
think-
part
that's what I'm
because
saying.
remember
So-
the TV show has to sell. So like they're not going to. Hey, yeah, we let this guy free because then everybody
Yeah,
like,
but
well,
it's
what the
never.
fuck's the
But
point
it's
of the
never.
show?
The
But
police, it's never the police.
But
that's
all you're
interviewing
saying
the guy.
right now, you're
it
saying
is.
that
Yes,
conspiracy.
it's usually Chris Hansen.
Yeah, but they do it afterwards.
No. Afterwards.
Afterwards,
they-
it's immediate arrest.
and
They
then
put him
let's-
in cuffs
Let's
immediately.
stop
Wait,
talking
hold on.
over each other.
After they handcuff him, remember this is TV.
Yeah,
so
no.
you got to keep that in mind.
100%.
They handcuff him, blah blah blah, and they bring him into a room, and whatever they say, whatever da 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 da. And the show that I saw, they actually were like, they're trying to get a confession out of him. If you confess to a crime, it's a done deal. It's black and white. There is no.
An interesting point of this
Think
show.
about this: making a murderer.
Look, an
Avery,
interesting.
Done
that
deal.
Avery kid. It's not a done deal yet, though.
It's
Well, it is. He's in jail.
an-
Yeah, but
an
he might be
interesting-
getting out. He might not be getting out.
An interesting point in the show is though that all of these guys waive their right to
leave.
to remain silent.
The average person
They
doesn't
all waive their
is,
right.
is ignorant of the law. Obviously,
and
that's
that's
why there's
and
lawyers.
that's a big part of it
Yeah.
because there. I remember there was a guy in particular who got a lawyer, and that guy got off with less charges than they said that these other guys got because they weren't as abreast of the.
Think about this: if it were you, right? You yourself, if somebody put in your face, and this is interrogation.
Wait, on which
tactics.
side? Like I'm the guy who did it.
You're
or
the
I'm
guy that's
who
getting
did-
arrested.
Okay.
This is interrogation tactics. Police officers walk in with a file that has your name across it. All those papers could be just blank papers. You don't know, but from your perspective, oh shit, they got fucking. What is that?
Well, that's the game, right? That's
Right,
the
that is the
game.
game. They put a videotape, a VHS tape, or whatever. Nowadays, they obviously don't use that. On top of the folder, and say, "Listen, we got all of this
Floppy disk right there.
Yeah, we got all of this against you.
Yeah.
like we got transcripts, blah blah blah.
They could even say your buddy Jay's in the next room, and he told us that you did it.
Right, exactly.
I
They
feel
can
like I've
totally
watched
lie.
enough Law and Order and enough cop shows to no matter what they say, just get your lawyer there.
Oh,
That's it.
absolutely, 100%.
No matter what, dude. No matter how easy they tell you it's going to be.
150%.
Just say I'm
Yeah, I
not
would just-
saying
I would just
shit
leave
without a
and be
lawyer.
arrested.
Don't ever
I'd
fucking
leave
say
and be
shit.
arrested
No matter
immediately.
what. I don't give a shit how minor it is. Don't ever say shit. Just say, I plead the fifth. I want my lawyer.
These guys definitely don't know that.
I mean, these are sick fucks, but
These guys definitely don't know. You can tell when you walk in. I mean, we're all poker players, right? We definitely, most of us know how to like read people,
Yeah.
right? Whether it be to a small extent or to a larger
Large,
extent,
yeah.
right? So, and that's why I love these shows because I'll sit there and I'll watch. And when you know they're lying, I want to watch their.
well, yeah,
face.
obviously you know that guy wants to fuck a
Right,
13-year-old.
But with these guys,
whether it's legal or not, that's a whole nother.
no, you're right. But when these guys,
It's not legal, so
Yeah, it's not legal.
for
Exactly.
It's
the,
true.
for the record,
But when these guys come in,
it's legal or not. Nope.
but when these guys,
Not legal.
but when these guys come in and sit down, they are genuinely surprised. So I don't think that they have this guy sign anything prior to doing this or anything. I think these guys are legitimately surprised
Oh, of
that
course.
someone comes in.
All of a sudden,
and-
the pressure's on them. They're like, "Oh shit!"
I mean, just look at the guy who threw himself on like head first into like the island that they had there that they was sitting on.
Yeah.
I mean,
I am again. I'm talking solely legality, and I'm not ever condoning or promoting what the intent of these guys are. I'm assuming what their intent is based on their actions. I have no fucking idea what's actually going on.
Yeah, you do. I mean, we
And-
can
and just like-
say definitively their intent is to fuck a kid. Like,
but if I say Josh,
Well,
I'm going to kill
remember,
you,
again,
and I
this
text
is
you, I'm
TV.
going to kill you,
Yeah.
and you bring it to the cops and you say, well, look what Joe sent me.
Yeah.
This guy Joe, he said, I'm going to kill you.
Right, exactly.
You know
can
what
be
I mean?
manipulated.
Right.
And this is TV.
So
it
what's the
has to
intent?
sell.
Is that my intent? Now, if I say, I got my gun, I'm on my way, I'm going to blast you. I'm going to blast your ass. Well, now there's a little bit of, now if I show up at your house, what's my intent? Well, you have,
haha, JK.
yeah, right. You have a, but it's all relative, right? Because it's that proves intent more than if I just say, oh, I'm going to kill you. Like, all right, like, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess,
And that's another point with the whole R. Kelly thing, wrapping it back around to R. Kelly. Remember, Lifetime or whatever show that was, TLC, whatever,
Lifetime.
the Dave Chappelle show.
they also are
wanna
trying to
tell
sell
you.
something. They're trying to sell something that sells, that
Yeah,
creates views.
they're obviously trying to
And I'm
get
not saying that
everybody.
he's free or he's or guiltless. But
if you watch that show, the show's goal is to have you think that he's a guilty man.
absolutely.
Which
Well, it's
I'm not.
every
I'm,
documentary show.
yeah,
kinda like
I'm
that.
not saying
He's
that I
making-
don't think he's a guilty man. I think that he's definitely sick, and just with the fact of marrying Aaliyah, that forget everything else. If you only had that to base your opinion on, you have to say that a 27-year-old who's having sex and trying to marry a 15-year-old, there's obviously something wrong with that.
Well, let me ask you. So now that we're talking about it, what about a 27-year-old versus an 18-year-old? Isn't that still, even though it's legal?
Yes, me personally, I think that is morally wrong. I'm 29 years old.
Why?
Because I still look at that person like a child. Like I'm 29, and I think a 19-year-old girl or a 20-year-old girl is still a child.
How about, let's say, 25?
That's a lot more mature. That I would say a 25-year-old is an adult.
No. I'm saying a
25-year-old.
18 and 25.
I still think that gap right there, because I feel like when you start to get into those mid to late 20s,
23 and 18.
yeah, obviously the line is getting blurrier the closer you get to that.
That's where I'm going with it. I mean, like,
Okay.
whether people base their morality off of legal.
No, I don't base it off the
versus-
legal. You can convince me that you're 17 years old. You're 17, 364 years old. It's illegal for you to have sex with somebody who's over 18.
Right.
But you go to sleep now the next day, now it's okay.
Now it's okay.
To me,
Right.
that's fucking stupid.
Think
You know
about
what I mean?
two-sided. A lot of us are. And I'll just say a lot of us because it may not pertain to anybody who's at this table, but from the thought process of when we're single guys. Now you have a daughter. I know you have.
Not single guy, but
Well, right, right. I'm sorry. I was looking at the single guy.
love
when
you, baby.
I have a girlfriend.
Right.
So
you're
we're not single
you were
at
the
all.
single guy, sir.
Thanks for the reminder. Anyways, no.
I'm saying I don't want any self-incrimination
All right, so
happening here, guys.
I'm the single guy who has no kids, right?
George just left.
So the fact of the matter is, like a lot of us are so two-sided in the way that we look at things because as a guy who's looking for women, right? A lot of us older guys, like we gravitate towards younger women, right? It makes us feel like, I can still
Absolutely.
get younger women. But then when we think about it from this aspect, it's different, isn't it? Right? Like if I had a daughter, I would probably look at it different. And I don't necessarily like me at this point. Like I don't really like women who are under a certain age. Like
Yeah, but
I
that's
feel
a
like I
morality
can't,
thing.
yeah,
between
yeah.
you.
And I feel like I
you
can't
probably-
relate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you look at that because they're a kid.
Right.
What I think is pretty interesting that there's even a correlation between law and mentality and sex. Like, because if you really look at the three things, they could be completely separate. I mean, like you said, it's a cultural thing. And when you think about the actual act of sex, and what it is, when you're growing up as a young guy or a young girl, your body physically doesn't do anything to prepare you for sex. Then you get to a point, you get to an age.
Well, it actually does.
Hold on. You get to an age
You grow
where
hair.
your body actually does start doing things, whether that's getting an erection or, having your, Netherlands lubricated. Your body actually starts physically saying, okay, I'm ready for sex, let's do it. So, and that happens at a younger age than is legally accepted, in America.
And that's pure instinct at that point.
Well, it's not
I'm looking at
instinct.
it
Your
very
body's physically going through a process to prepare you to have sex
Yeah, it's
right now at this
physiological.
moment.
Right.
Which I think I always found it interesting that even though naturally,
Yep.
our bodies are saying it's okay for me to have sex now, I'm ready for it, the law still interjects and says, well, no, you're not. Like it doesn't matter how you feel or what your body's capable of. We're just drawing this arbitrary line at 18 years old. So I thought that was always interesting.
Again, piggybacking off what you're saying, I think I agree with you.
We have this.
Thanks for that insight.
You
We
have to have a
this
line
weird
somewhere.
there's this weird taboo though that we look at sex with like these like it's for this forbidden thing when it's really, it's such a normal natural part of life, and it's interesting that it's always has a stigma behind it.
And you think that that's why?
Like if you and I want to have sex right here right now, there should be nothing wrong with that.
I would never have sex with you.
I would.
Right? There should be nothing wrong with that.
But
Are you a homophobe, Jay?
no, I just don't like dick. But anyway, no, I think
How
that,
dare you?
I think
I identify as a
people-
woman. I actually have a man pussy.
all right. I think people actually. I don't think people actually mature until they're like about 30 years old, like fully mature. That's just my opinion. I have no scientific.
But I don't think that you can
Facts.
paint people with. You can't the analogy I used to always use, you can't paint everybody with the same brush, right? Like if
I'm talking majority.
right, but
Thanks,
if you,
Bob Ross.
it's like my happy
Clouds
little
over
tree.
here,
No,
little
but if you
tree
took
over here.
10,
He's a great painter.
if you took 10 solo cups, red solo cups, and you put them across a
Toby Keith, calm down.
right?
And then you fill them up.
No, and then you take like
Let's have
you
a
take a pitcher of
pod.
water and you ran it across. None of those cups would equally be distributed, right?
I
So
beg
it's-
to differ.
No, it's kind of similar. You can differ, it's fine, but like it's kind of similar as far as the analogy of how people grow. Like we all don't grow the
Right.
same
Same.
way.
Right.
But you do have to.
You know?
Would you agree that you do have to have a line somewhere? Obviously.
Right. There has to be a
At
line.
some
but
point.
Yeah,
It's
no,
crazy that the line is an age thing because your age on paper legally changes in a matter of seconds from midnight. You know, from
Right.
11:59 p.m.
And all of a
It's
sudden
illegal
you
for
can.
us to have sex. Now I'm 18. Now it's legal.
But
You
that
know,
dissipates at a certain point, right? Like there comes a certain age where that sort of dissipates, where it's like it's not okay for
Well, no, legality is
No,
black and
legally,
white.
no,
yeah,
no.
that's what
I
I'm
get
saying.
it, but like, but there is an age where it dissipates because you could be 30 and no, it's not okay to be with a 15, 16, 17-year-old, but then you can be 60 and it is okay to be with a
30-year-old.
30-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Right.
You
That's
know,
true.
That's
so
just-
it dissipates.
that's a good
stuff.
point.
That's
Yeah.
just because there's a law though there.
Right. No, of course, absolutely.
It's a good point. But I think in today's times where, let's say, and you know, you have to ask yourself, where does morality come from? What's the basis of it? Where's the foundation of morality? Who's to say what's right and really wrong?
I know. And is there
Even
a general morality? Is there just your morality versus my morality?
I think a lot
Is-
of people.
There's the Bible. Is that morality?
Yes.
I mean,
A
you know,
lot of people just
Ooh.
base it off of legality, but you can't base it off of legality because those are just other men and women that are sitting around a table and they're saying, "All right, let's throw a dart at the dartboard. Let's pick this."
Laws
age."
and ethics aren't really mutually exclusive. Like
Correct.
they're not equal.
there was
Right.
a law in Rhode Island where you couldn't walk and chew bubblegum at the same time.
There's tons of laws like that.
Yeah,
Just
lot.
think of
These-
laws 20, 30 years ago, man.
Yeah.
Like, women couldn't vote. You know, black people couldn't. There were slaves.
Wait,
I mean,
women can
you know.
vote?
Oh shit! I wonder how we got in this mess.
So
So
what happened? We allowed them to vote. Now all of a sudden,
that's Jay O'Leary saying that. So we're
What's his
clear.
address?
I love
I
to have to
actually-
give that reminder once in a while.
Yeah, just, you know.
Oh, shit.
So, did anybody peep that that weird ass dude? Well, he was actually a pretty normal dude, and then just went on that killing spree in
Oh, the Uber
Michigan.
driver.
Yeah. He did you see that?
No, I actually I hadn't seen it until
So-
we talked about it earlier a little bit. But that is pretty, you know.
So, just to give you a quick backstory,
Yeah, sure.
he literally, I mean, as boring as a person as you could be, you know, just married, 2
Just
kids.
your
Wait a
average-
second. I have 2 kids. So not super boring, but an insurance salesman, average, never been in any trouble with the law.
never.
Just, you know,
White
said, hey,
guy.
honey, I'm going, you know, drive for Uber
that
for a couple hours. You know, I'm going to drive for Uber
As
for a
opposed to
couple
Asian.
hours. And he goes on a fucking killing spree.
Just
and
like
what he's
fucking
doing-
shots at people.
Yeah, so, George, can you pull
Mothers,
this article up?
fathers.
Just so I, you know, if I misquote anything, you can correct me. But it's not like he would, you know, obviously didn't know who he was going to kill. It was random. But what makes it creepy as fuck is what he was doing is he was picking somebody up, completing their Uber drive, then killing somebody else.
And
And
then
after
pick
he would
somebody
kill
else up.
somebody else, he would just go right in his Uber app, pick somebody else up. So he'd kill somebody, complete an Uber trip, kill somebody else, complete an Uber trip, like it was normal.
But the
And when-
great. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Nah, and when he got picked up and arrested, you know, he didn't fight anything. He
Nope.
didn't resist anything. He was like, yeah,
I
no,
did it.
I did it. And the reason why I did it is because when I looked at my phone, my Uber app, I saw some devil symbol.
Right.
What was it? Like
not
not
the
the 6
pentagon,
star,
not-
the pentagon,
yeah.
something like that. So he's like, you know, I looked at my Uber app
Pentagram.
and I saw like a pentagram, and
Or
it,
something.
yeah, I saw a pentagram and it told me to kill these people. What the fuck, man? Like, and he pleaded guilty. Like, he pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, which is apparently is like unheard
Against
of.
his lawyers.
Right, which is unheard
advice.
of because it has a penalty of
Life without
life
parole.
with no parole. So that if you plead guilty, there's zero chance you're ever getting out ever. So it's like, all right, what do you have
It's
to lose?
strange
Why
because
not
after
fight it?
cold-bloodedly killing people, random people, mothers with their kids. He killed a father and his 17-year-old son.
It was 14, but yeah.
Okay, right.
Right.
Just, you know, bucking shot, 9mm. you know, shooting them, like with no kind of consciousness. What is it? Conscience. Yeah. Jeez, I'm fucking up. Anyway, conscience whatsoever. But then, against his lawyer's advice, says, you know what? I don't want to put my family through the trial.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So I'm going to just plead guilty. Like, well, now you're killing people, and now you're thinking of your family. Like,
I think
that's strange.
He was probably ready to get shot. He was probably thought it was gonna end with him dying.
Police by suicide.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
suicide.
they said, altogether it was 7 hours. It was 7 hours altogether, and in between the killings, he picked up and dropped off Uber.
That's crazy.
That's fucking sick.
I
The
think
one
that some people
the
just
one they were
want to.
saying was a car dealership. They were looking at a car.
I think that some people just want to get caught. I think it actually makes me think about man, what's his name there? This will definitely be an edited part here.
Trump?
No.
David Berkowitz?
No, more recent than David Berkowitz. The guy who got killed in jail there. The serial killer.
Whitey Bulger?
No, the serial killer. He got killed in jail.
Jeffrey
Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh, okay.
You know, I've watched interviews with that guy. That guy was he was ready to be caught. Like he had things hidden and stuff, but like when he went in his house, there was nothing really hidden. Everything was right there.
There's no more.
I'll go get that other one in here in a second. But
There's beer in there.
it was just I think that some people like just lose their shit. Like going postal, right? That was like a popular.
Like Falling Down, the movie.
Yeah, but I don't. I think that maybe inside them somewhere they know what they're doing is horrible,
Right.
and maybe they feel like they don't have control of it. Whether we think that's a cop out or not, I believe that sometimes people do things that they have no control over.
Right.
They do it, and I think there's some part of them that's like, man, I just want to get caught. I want to get
Let me
away
ask you
from.
a
I want to
question.
stop
pose a
doing
question.
this.
I'm going to pose a question based off of what you just said, where people have no control.
I like long walks on the beach.
Do people have the burden of responsibility to understand the self, knowing that, hey, look, I'm susceptible to, let's say, doing something like that. Almost everybody is. If you put enough pressure on somebody, or put their back against the ropes, or make them at least feel like their back is against the ropes, they might wig the fuck out, right? Is there a burden of responsibility on the self, on the individual? For Joe, it'd be Joe Sprague, and for Josh, it'd be Josh Pilardi. To say to yourself,
no governments.
To say, no birth names. To say to yourself, like, hey, look, I know what I'm really capable of, so I need to make sure that I'm not gonna put myself in those positions or whatever.
Yes and no. Yes being, you can do that to an extent, but how many of us really face every situation that we could ever face in our lives to a certain extent, right?
Oh, absolutely.
To a certain point. Like, you don't know how you would act if
Until
I
you're there.
came in here with a gun
Start
in
shooting
your
up the place.
face and just like, oh my, this is my friend.
Right.
Who I thought I knew, and here he is, and I thought, like, if anybody ever came up to me with a gun, I'd like, take it, and I'd beat their ass. But now it's my friend, and I just didn't know what to
that's
do. So yes, I think that there is a burden of responsibility for yourself as far
There's
as
some things you can't control.
there's some things that you can't control. I mean, it's that sort of like animalistic instinct in us, I guess, where maybe we get pushed to a certain limits where we feel like our back's against the wall, and then we do things that are completely out of character. You hear it all the time, like, oh, he lived next door, and
He was the average guy.
He mowed my lawn for
salesman,
me.
Well, this guy in Michigan that you were just talking about said that there was a passenger that got out of the car before he started all the shootings, and he said that he got about a mile away from my house, and he got a telephone call. After that, he started driving erratically, running stop signs, driving through medians and lawns. So he got a phone call, started freaking out. This guy jumped out of the car and ran away, and then all the shooting spree started. So was it triggered by a phone call saying...
God damn, I wish
Could you
I could
imagine
hear
that it was just a phone call saying from, like, wifey saying, oh, sorry, I slept with your brother?
Something that
And then this guy just says, okay, well...
But why wouldn't he say
snapped.
that? Why wouldn't he just say, hey, look, my wife called me, and that's... Because that's...
Who's
Hold
he
on.
going to tell his wife?
Listen, man.
No,
I'm
yeah,
saying
it's like, yeah,
or could it have
Why
been
make
like...
up a story
Well,
like...
what?
when it's-
Remember
there's
what
an
he said.
actual
Remember
reason
what he...
behind it.
You want to grab that? Or?
No, I gotta take a piss. Or else I'm gonna
Let
start
me
Dumb
see
and
your phone.
Dumber
Yeah.
pissing in beer bottles.
You need the camera or no?
I'm gonna grab that.
Yeah, well, no, I want to see if I can download this app
Yep.
and see if I can do it.
I'm going to pose another question. This is
Before you do
go
that,
ahead.
I want to get this point out. I don't want to sound crazy, but the guy said that he looked at his phone and he saw some sort of devil symbol. You know, the pentagram. What if that phone call, man, was really something, you know, like supernatural? Like, is it possible, man? You know, like, that's what he's saying happened. And I can't.
It's all like noise in the.
Yeah,
Good.
I think
Go
that's
easy.
a bad idea. But I don't know, man. You know, it obviously sounds crazy, and to think that that's what happened, you know, it's inexplicable. So I think that
it says that basically anybody that was interviewed, all of his neighbors and friends and whoever from, you know, places that he lived, said it was a normal family. They lived across from him for 10 years. There's never anything wrong. So I wonder if it was just a trigger to.
God, I want to hear that phone call.
Can you imagine? I'm surprised that they didn't subpoena that phone call. But if you pled
Oh,
guilty,
I'm sure they did. They might not be releasing that though
I'm gonna grab that.
to the public. Thanks, Joe.
I actually like what you brought up because I think of serial killers. You know, I think it was David Berkowitz. He said, like, the dog made me do it. The question is, what if they're telling the truth?
Right.
What if I mean, like, we wouldn't know. To us, they're just crazy.
Exactly, man. But there've been there are so many cases and, you know, instances of possessions and these supernatural things that happen. I mean, and they date back so far, and they're from different parts of the world, and
three-prong?
they're from
yeah.
Those are all
they're from parts of the world where
That's
there was so much distance between the two stories. There's no way they could have,
right here.
you know, corroborated those stories together, corroborated those stories. So it leads me to believe that
I don't know what that goes to.
And over there.
there's got to be some truth to these things that happen. You know, these supernatural things that happen. And like I said, I know it sounds crazy, but, you know, George just found for us that an Uber passenger said everything was fine. Then he got a phone call and started acting erratic, and then he goes and kills 6 random people. I mean, what could possibly make you do that?
Right.
You know, like, what could take you from being a very extra medium, normal, everyday person to just getting a phone call and then going on a killing spree? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I wholeheartedly, I would never, you know, not consider that aspect of it because there's too many instances of people saying, you know, this and that told me to do it, and
Car locks by itself.
XYZ.
I really wish we could hear that phone call or see what image he saw on his phone, man, because
Right.
I think, again, I know it sounds crazy, but, like, I just want to, even if it's not what he says it is, what was it? You know, like, what could he have confused with? To me, the only thing that makes sense is that his soul, you know, like his brain, his mind was overtaken by something.
Right.
And
you got to ask yourself,
what
drives
could
somebody
do
to
that?
do that?
Yeah, it's fuck.
It's kind of scary.
Sick shit, man. It's kind of scary
Because
that's you
could
and
be
me.
you.
That's you or me.
Right,
You know,
that's
like
you.
that's, you know, because you ask, I'm probably less normal than he is. You know, like if you said that something happened and I was driving erratic, you might believe that.
Right.
But it seemed like that guy never
just
had
an
any
average
kind
guy.
of reckless history, man. So that's kind of crazy. Can I get some of that, George?
Right.
So I don't know, man. That shit was just nuts, dude. And then I saw another article. It was killing time and shit today. It might have been yesterday, actually. A weatherman. I don't know if you can pull this up, George. If it was in New York.
Oh, he said the word coon.
Yeah, and
Martin Luther Coon or something.
Right, I guess it was called Martin Luther King Park, maybe, or something. He was going to describe a Martin Luther King something, and it came out of his mouth as Martin Luther King Coon or whatever the case is, you know. But the guy had no history. So what happened is, you know, he's a weatherman. He's on the air. He says that, and the network, you know, there's a little bit of an uproar. There's a backlash. The network fires him.
Which I think is extreme. That's my opinion.
I also agree. I think that's super extreme. Because if you take somebody that has a flawless history of never having any racial allegations against them or you know, if you ask people that he knew, you know, nobody would ever say, "Oh yeah, there's a chance he's a racist." And I think of all the conversations that I've had with people and how many times there's been a stutter or a slip of the tongue. Every day I call my kids the wrong name. You know, I'm Carter.
Think
You know,
about
like,
the bloopers of
yeah,
news. They say curse words. They say
So-
fuck, titty, you know, whatever.
well, that's
Cock
different
balls,
because that
cock
word,
balls,
you know, like
fuck, titty,
it's
cock balls, you know, whatever.
so to me, if you ask me just to look at it, you know, with just for the situation itself, I would say the guy just had a slip of the tongue, man, and had no ill intent. There was nothing malicious about it.
I mean, the way that it looks is that he was trying to say Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Park.
I could
And it
easily
King and
confuse
Junior
King,
got
yeah,
combined.
King and Junior got
So you got
combined. To me,
Coon.
that seems pretty simple, you know, Coonier.
Right.
Like, oh shit, you know. And he's like, I immediately corrected it, you know, like it was probably came out like, oh, Martin Luther, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. You know, like,
And that goes back to my point. Like, today's culture, the PC culture, is just so extreme and so sensitive. That here's a guy, a stand-up guy, you know.
George, what network was that? In what state?
It was definitely
New
New
York.
York.
New York. Does it say the
It says
network? What channel?
WDRB.
All right, WDRB. If you're listening to this, fuck you. Hire this dude back. I mean, you're getting rid. You're ultimately ruining somebody's career to appease some extremist. You know, people that are calling for him to be. And they took it a step further. You know, the people that were upset. Not only are they happy that he was fired, but they want all the management involved in that network disciplined also. You know, they're like, well, why did it take so long for a formal apology to be issued? And it's like, really, there shouldn't even be a formal apology.
It was an
I think
informal
what he
mistake.
what he did was enough. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean Coon. I meant Martin Luther King.
Yeah, and it's not like he was a brand new like training meteorologist. The guy was working there for years. It looks like Al Roker
Hey, can you
came
hear
out
this
this
crunching?
morning and defended him.
Oh, really? I didn't see that. What did Al Roker say? Can you read
basically
whatever
just-
he
He
said?
basically just defended him, saying that he was fired for something that he was flubbed, and obviously didn't mean it. But then people are coming out saying that he was thinking the word coon. Like, come on.
How the
such a
fuck can you
reach.
say what somebody was thinking? Fuck you if you think that. You know, if you could see what I was thinking right now about all you motherfuckers, you'd want me fired.
Hey, if you guys would have seen what I was thinking when I came in and you were talking about he had a slip of the tongue, I thought we were in the same conversations we were when I left.
So Al Roker came out and said, I think Jeremy Capel made an unfortunate flub and should be given the chance to apologize on News 10 NBC. Anyone who's done live TV and screwed up understands, and he basically said, Google any of the number of times that I've done that.
Well, put it this way.
Good for Al Roker, man. I think
about-
that's pretty
I like Al
powerful.
Roker.
The fact that he's a
Stand
black
up.
man too, you know, it's definitely more
why
powerful.
would somebody with, you know, a good reputation or whatever on live TV do that? I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's real. It's a reach. It's a big reach. But I understand again that the company itself, they're so sensitive and so. Oh my gosh, it almost kind of bothers me.
Oh, it aggravated the
point-
shit out of me when I saw
We're
that.
like, oh shit, he said this. It's gonna stir up some shit. Let's get rid of him. Like, oh, that's how you treat you just fuck that guy and his family. Like, come on. It's not like what was his name, Amos that said these nappy-headed hoes or whatever.
Yeah, he was talking about girls' basketball, college
Yeah.
basketball team.
Snappy-headed hose. He said that.
Yeah, he said that. So,
I mean, I'm not laughing. I'm just laughing at how stupid can you be to say that? Like,
Especially Don Imus, who's been around forever. You know what I
Right.
mean, who's probably the second most
he's
if
like
not-
them nappy-headed hoes
Yeah,
out
he's like
there.
one of the most recognizable names in
yeah,
radio.
Well, didn't the same thing happen to Jeremy Clarkson on BBC? Did
Kelly
something like
Clarkson?
that? No, Jeremy Clarkson for the guy that does Top Gear. You ever watch Top Gear?
no, what do you say?
I know what show you're talking about,
Yeah,
but
he got. I'm pretty sure he got fired after God knows how many years for saying something like that.
crunching the mic.
Yeah, don't crunch on the mic, guys. You can't wait fucking 20 minutes to eat chips. Fucking heifers.
Fucking hungry.
It's just what people want to hear when they're listening.
But, that's crazy.
It is, man. I read that and I couldn't believe it. You know, like that's where it's come. And nobody thinks that you. All right, you can ask probably 1,000 people, and I'm sure you get at least 990 people that would agree that you shouldn't go around calling black people coons.
Obviously.
So, do
And
we
you shouldn't
really
be calling
chalk that?
you
Do we
shouldn't be
really
calling
chalk?
raccoons black people.
Do we really chalk that up as just a mistake, or was he being malicious there? I mean,
But no, who cares?
well, you have to care because if he's being malicious and he's calling people coons,
No,
like he
I
shouldn't be
think
on the air.
I think it's very obvious he's not being malicious. But
That's what I'm saying.
But people are going to the extent of saying that obviously it came out so natural, so he must have been thinking of it.
Fuck you! You can't say what he was
Shut the
thinking. Yeah,
fuck up.
and you're allowed to think whatever you want. You can think
Right.
whatever you want. And I don't think that he was thinking it. I think that when you put the word King and Junior together,
Right,
there's a
exactly.
chance that coon could come out. You know, so fuck that network for firing him.
Now,
Hopefully, I
mean,
really
if
hope he gets his
said,
job.
Yeah,
What's his name?
Martin Luther
Jeremy?
Mooley Park or something. That's
Well,
obviously something different.
Isn't part of our thinking process involuntary?
Yes.
So I mean, when we go to sleep, do we control what we dream?
Jeremy
That's a good point.
Campbell.
You know what I
Jeremy
mean? So-
Cabell, man. If they
Maybe-
don't hire you back, feel free to hit us up. You know, we'll find something for you here.
And he was a chief meteorologist too. It's not like he was like the guy on TV that would tell you.
Oh, so he's like
This
Tony
is Rochester.
Petrarca.
He'll
That
be telling you if it
exposes
snows
and
every day.
surfaces today's culture in a nutshell. Like,
Right.
you're so like, are you serious?
Well,
You're
do
so
you think
worried
it's-
about ratings.
Well, do you think it's the company that they just don't want to even deal with it? You know what I mean? It's
Absolutely.
like, I don't want to deal with the backlash. I don't want to deal with the Twitter
Absolutely.
people. I don't want to offend all these people.
Mhm.
So let's just cut ties. We'll give them some money and just, go your merry way. Because we don't want to deal with it. I mean,
It's everybody. I feel like these companies, especially these tech and media companies, or any company that normally gets a lot of publicity, they're walking on eggshells when it comes to these, PR issues. Like I think if you can check this out, George, I don't want to misquote it, but some exec at I believe Netflix was talking in a meeting, and he said the N-word. He said the word nigga, but he said it. He didn't say it in a derogatory sense. He was
Everything's
talking about
context.
in the context he was talking about some of the specials, I think comedy specials that Netflix had, and he said, all right, well, we can't really censor this person if Dave Chappelle says nigga all the time, and we let that comedy
Go.
special stay on there.
At least black.
And they're like,
It's like-
whatever
Yeah,
the
it
case is,
doesn't
but this is the context that the exec was saying it. He said, well, hey, this special said the N-word, but Dave Chappelle's special says nigga all the time. How do we figure out which one? Whatever the case is. So that was the context he said it in, and they fired him because he said the word.
Well, it's
it's
a
very-
little bit different though. His name is Jonathan Friedland. He's a top Netflix executive, and he was forced to leave the company as the chief communications officer, so CCO. And he said that they said that it was more than one occasion that he used the word in front of colleagues. So he's fired after multiple occasions.
But I don't
Are
think
those
the
occasions
quantity
valid?
of occasions matter. It's
But
what's
then
the
it comes-
context that you're using it in.
Absolutely.
Is he saying, hey, we gotta hire more niggas, or is he saying, hey, like if this person says nigga on a Netflix special,
Can we say nigga?
can we say it, but we can't
know what
ban
I
this
mean.
person from having a Netflix special because they say it.
Well, there's something that was released from Netflix saying that leaders have to be beyond reproach in the example that they set to the employees.
So
But
that's
then
just
it
a
goes on-
vague, safe thing for them to say.
But then it goes
Yeah.
on to say that it was while he was speaking to a team about words that offend in comedy. So that's
There
a
you go.
whole different ballgame, because if you're talking about something, an offensive word during a production of something, saying that, I mean, it depends how the context is too. You don't know.
Right.
You could have walked around.
But
You
just
could have walked around
based
saying,
on what you just read, though, because I feel like the Netflix, their official statement is always going to err on the side of protecting themselves, saying that
Obviously,
we
yeah.
fired them for the correct. So the fact that they're still even being that coy about it lets you know that the context probably wasn't that bad. It probably
pose
wasn't
the
that
question,
malicious.
How come we never hear of a major corporation or company back their employee? How about a company be loyal to their workers? How about, or employees? How come we never ever hear that?
well, I think it's hard because especially if they're a publicly traded company, every single person's job is to keep the name out of people's mouths that's negative. I know all press is good, but if the press
wait,
is going
hold
to be
on.
negative, you want to try to avoid it at all costs.
Well, let me throw a different example at you. How about
I don't have to push any buttons to hit this, right?
No, you just pull it. The controversy with Colin Kaepernick, that actually worked in Nike's favor in the long run. So I mean, like, saying it's negative is objective. Number one, it depends on how you look at it. Just saying the word nigger is not automatically negative.
Well, think about what that word
You need the
means to a
asterisk
lot
now
of.
that says that, Jay.
Think about what that word means to a lot of people. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. Is
Yeah, but
is
there's got
that
to be a level of maturity on the listener's end right?
Yeah.
On
Well,
the
of course.
receiving end,
I always think this way when we talk about words, right?
honky cracker, same kind of thing.
Like with the word fuck.
How dare you?
Like, why does the word fuck have such a
Versatility?
negative? Yeah.
or negative connotation.
Yeah. Why
Well,
does
the
it
word
have,
fuck has a negative, spin on it because of what it means, and because we look at sex like it's this taboo,
Right.
negative thing.
But think about it from the stance I'm trying to take here. Now you have that word which has so much history.
Yep.
And it means so many things. It means so much to so many people that it's a very recognizable word. Okay.
Right.
Now we know when we use that word, regardless of what the connotation is, we all have that feeling when we use it. Okay, like even when you say, I'm sure like there's some kind of feeling when you say it. You know what I mean? That that's not.
Let me try.
There's something gross about that word. There's something like horrible about that word, right? Because of what it represents. When you say
hold on.
fuck, though, like you know what I mean?
Oh, you're talking about the word, the
yeah,
N-word
yeah. The
versus
contrast between shit, motherfucker, like
It's my
these
kind of
words only.
podcast.
watch banging the table.
Fuck,
these
shit, ass,
words
bitch, cunt,
only-
shibbity doo wop.
These words only mean something because we give the meaning to those words.
Oh, absolutely.
That other word is completely different.
What other word?
That one.
The N-word.
The N word is completely different.
Why?
There's so much because there's so much history tied to it.
I can respect what Joe's saying. There is, and it's a word because
But to
when
the
you hold on.
Go ahead.
Let me get my point out. Like, fuck, shit, bitch, ass. These are all words that are just, you could chalk them up as just curse words, but the N-word is specifically, the history of it actually comes as, that word was only invented and used to belittle and
Derogatory.
devalue, more than derogatory. I feel like derogatory doesn't do how bad it is justice.
And an Irish person, you should understand
Right,
this.
that word
just
was
'cause
created
that's
and
what Irish
used
people were called.
specifically to
Absolutely.
devalue and dehumanize,
Sorry.
a certain group of people. So I do feel like that certain group of people has the right to not want that word to be circulated or not want to hear, white people say that word, whatever the case is. And I think that if you and I are just hanging out, it would be wrong for us to just throw that word around. But I feel like when there's a context and you're explaining a situation, or if you're rapping a song, or reciting a movie verse or talking about what came up in the conversation, then that context, it shouldn't be too offensive. You can't really hold that against somebody like that. Netflix exec, I think that was a little extreme. He's explaining to his team, hey, this is the challenge that we're having. This comedy special has this word in it. This comedy special also has this word in it, but people want us to remove this one because it has a word in it. Where do we draw the line?
And
Well, let me ask you this.
Well, here's food for thought, really quick, not to interrupt you, but when we use that
Not
word,
to interrupt you, but I'm going.
well, I just want we have that word, right, and then we have like GD, right?
What's GD?
Well,
Good day, sir.
no, goddamn,
Goddamn.
yeah,
I
right.
didn't say that's a swear.
So
I told my
to
5-year-old
certain
not to say that.
there's a certain population where we know this word,
A massive population.
right? So we know
Millions
that
of
this
people.
word, the N word, we know how derogatory that is when it comes out, as far as to certain people. What about that word?
And nobody even blinks
And
an eye.
nobody even blinks an eye. And that kind of shows the, what do you call it, the not double-edged sword,
Double standard.
the double standard that exists in society.
Yeah, but goddamn, it just. I mean, it is what it is. Like, the fact is, that term and that curse word just carries way less weight.
It's not right.
than the
That's not
N-word.
true.
That's
It
not
is
true at all.
It
That's
is
not true.
Well, I think it only carries
it is
more
true.
weight if you're religious.
Yeah, of
Right.
course.
Yeah, but
And
I
there
tell
are
you
a
what,
lot-
But the
I'm
other
not
one
more
carries
religious
more weight
people.
if you're black.
Well, that's true,
Right.
but I'm not a religious person, so it carries barely any weight with
That's
me.
exactly
And I'm
right.
not a black person,
Offending
so
every black person that I know is
Right, and I'm not
carries a
black.
lot of
Hold
weight.
on.
Yeah.
You're talking about African American,
Yeah.
not necessarily black people. Let's say in Africa, they didn't experience that as much
Sure.
as, let's say, African Americans.
Right.
But what I wanted to say earlier was, obviously everything's in context. And is society really at a point where we can't talk about subject matter for fear of offending a group of people? For instance, the word nigger. Like, obviously, if you use it
You gotta have the asterisk on every time.
Well, that's the thing. I am not afraid of talking about subject matter. Nobody's going to silence me or censor me from talking about a subject matter. Now,
Preach.
obviously, even if I use it in a derogatory, condescending, insulting kind of way, that's a whole different story.
Mm.
I think you brought up a great point. There are billions of Christians that do not approve of the GD. But do people consider that? Absolutely not. And just because you're atheist, just because you're not Christian, I mean, does it give you the right to say those things? Hey, listen, I'm not black. Can I say the N word wherever? No.
I know
right?
millions. I know millions of Southerners that would disagree.
You know,
Absolutely.
millions of people.
Yeah, that if you say that in their household, it's just as bad as saying and the what do you call it there, right? Because where did a lot of the racism start?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't really say that, right? Because we talked about the Irish and a lot of the Italians and stuff that were coming over. They were subjected to that stuff.
Absolutely.
But we associate racism and slavery. We associate that with the South because of the Civil
I think
War.
today it's beat in not only just the African American population, but minorities as a whole. I think it's beat in their minds from our educational institutions, that they're a victim.
The media.
The media,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's everywhere.
Now, let me pose this question to you: does the African American community have a responsibility for the way that they have sold the word nigger, the way that they have sold the image? Meaning, if you go back into the '90s, right when the hip hop and rap culture was coming up, every single movie was about a black community, and they're in the hood, and they're doing drive-bys, and they're painting buildings, and they're all this gang shit, and blah, blah, blah. I know it because obviously I listened to it, and I watched it. You talk about Boys in the Hood, Juice, New Jack City, Menace to Society.
Friday.
So now, when you look at a white population that's ignorant of the nuances of the black community, you just sold to them an image. But now you're pissed off that they think that way.
Right.
Wait, hold on.
Rap music, like
Yeah.
you're
Wait,
selling
why is
this.
it okay that you can capitalize monetarily off of this, but then when they're when little white kids are saying the word nigga and all that other shit, all of a sudden you're offended. Hold on, you weren't offended when he was buying your CD. You weren't offended when they were watching your movie. Do they have a responsibility from that point because of the way that, let's say, your ignorant white guy views the black community? I think that my personal opinion is that, wait, you guys painted a picture for an ignorant white population, and now that they think these things, now you're going, whoa, hold on, that's not me. Well, wait a minute, it was you when you were making millions.
But it comes back to that same argument. Those guys, when they were making those millions, one, were directed by some sort of record label, some sort of producer, right? And at the time that they were doing it, let's take NWA,
Yeah, absolutely.
groups like that. How old were they?
Right.
How old were those guys?
Teenagers.
It's like when I listen to Tupac now.
I don't think that's relevant though, because that culture and that
Well, a maturity level.
it is relevant.
That style of music is still prevalent today with young rappers and old rappers. That's still the what young rappers or anybody in that hip hop culture aspires to be. But I actually think that culture is kind of changing. If you listen to a lot of hip hop now, it's
because
more
all those
mild.
guys are growing up.
It's a lot more mild. Than
Yeah,
you
because
see
all those
against-
guys are growing up. Dr. Dre is not the same Dr. Dre he was when he was in his 20s making.
I'm just talking about the music, not specific
No.
artists.
Yeah.
I think that the genre itself.
But
Well,
all,
Dr. Dre did
is
say,
evolving.
"Do you think I sold them all?"
right. All I'm saying is I listen as a 36-year-old. I listen to Tupac, and I love Tupac, right? Yeah. But he was a 24, 25-year-old guy, and yeah, we grew up in different aspects, of life.
Oh, okay, right.
But I've seen a little bit of that aspect of life. I have, and I just at 36, I just can't relate. I can't relate with them. It's all right. You rhyme well. The beats are cool. I can get into it. It's the old, the 18-year-old me, the 16-year-old, 17-year-old. That guy can get into it. But when I start to be the 36-year-old guy, it's man, I'm worried about paying my car insurance and
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? I'm worried about that. I'm not worried about drinking 40s and whatever. Although sometimes I worry about that. So that's my only point. Is I think that when those guys were rapping and coming out with that stuff, like that whole era, that attitude. I mean, that was great. But those
Public
guys
Enemy.
were so young.
Yeah.
They made their money. They don't have those problems anymore. So it's hard to keep that
Image.
image.
And sell it.
But all music industries, that's what it is. It's image.
Absolutely.
That's why you have like these guys who like look like they're 60 years old and they look the part. Like you look at a guy like Hulk Hogan. He's not in the music business, but he's still living the gimmick.
Yeah, right. I agree.
Because someone looks at him, it's like if you seen Dr. Dre and he was like with his fanny pack, like, "Hey, how you doing today, guys?" Like Dr. Dre. So he's always gonna be Dr. Dre when he's in front of everybody. You know?
Right.
Interesting.
I like Fireball.
Obviously, there's different. There's different perspectives, and I think, again, I think there's a large group and a large population that immediately default to the knee-jerk reaction of how it makes somebody feel,
Takes 1 second.
instead of applying logic, pragmatism, like you said,
I'm taking my words, man.
to the subject matter. To the subject matter. I mean, I think literally, like you hear the word nigger, and all of a sudden, obviously, like, oh, you can't say that.
Yeah,
Fuck
literally.
you.
I wonder if we're gonna set any kind of like.
You should get a button at this point.
I know we're gonna set.
Larry.
J.O.
Larry.
Hey, don't bang the thing.
I know. I
I
know.
mean, he says don't bang the thing, and he just bangs the thing.
Yeah.
So
Actually, we haven't even had that problem yet.
Has anybody seen that new thing on Netflix? Not the Bird Box, that was whack, but that Bandersnatch.
I did see the Bird Box though, just to bring that up.
Those sound like two
I thought the ending of that was horrible.
bestiality
It never
porn
climaxed
movies.
No, Bandersnatch, whatever.
Bandersnatch and Bird Box?
Bandersnatch.
I don't
get that
These
channel.
new
I don't
words.
think I get that channel.
Did you see that new show, Featherfuck?
What do bears fuck with in Japan? Bandersnatch.
Featherfuck?
Alright, so all it is, forget the name of the title. But it's called the
Anyway,
Netflix.
it's so memorable.
Bird Box and
It's like
Bandersnatch?
She's never getting this out. It's an interactive film. What that means is, the movie goes on.
You can smell the pussy.
So the movie goes on, right?
Television. I've seen all kinds of interactive films.
Never happened.
It's
No
fucking
smoking for
4D.
Jay.
You can smell the bird
Sorry,
snatch.
go ahead.
Yeah.
That vape pen went around one time, and
Nah, it has nothing to do with
right
it.
when you said snatch, it was over. You could just kill the
Well,
podcast.
no, it's because Bird Box
Great, hey,
and Bandersnatch.
Snatch. Good movie, but great movie.
All right, let's go, Josh. Get this
Dogs.
out.
Do you like dogs?
Yeah.
So what it is it's an interactive film. So part of the movie will happen, and then the main character is faced with a decision. It could be as simple as picking which food to eat for breakfast, or killing somebody or not killing them. And what you do is you choose which route he takes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I thought the concept of that was really cool. It gives you a chance to see a few different movies based on what you think, and then
Right.
later on you can meet up with your friends, discuss the movie.
Maybe
and say,
watch it again and
this
pick
is how
something else.
this is how your ending ended. Oh, cool. This is what mine
Yeah.
had. And you can really just kind of discuss the contrasting shit that you get. But it really wasn't like that at all. And I thought they had an opportunity to do something great. And ultimately, what happened was you had the option to make a decision. And if you made the right decision, the movie would kind of continue on. But if you made the wrong decision, something stupid would happen, and then it would kick you back to that decision again.
That's sort of like video games. Don't video games do that today?
No, it's like a choose your own adventure book.
Yeah,
Remember
something like
those?
that.
Yeah.
But at least that, if you choose an adventure,
Yeah,
you're
you're aging
moving
yourself.
forward. What this did was, if you choose the wrong option, it kind of just like told you, sorry, wrong option, try again. And I thought that really killed what it had going for it. And I don't know, I thought they had a chance to do something great, and they blew it.
I think the more interactive a movie gets or whatever, obviously the more... That's like stepping forward, that's the next thing, because they have come out with 4D movies where your chair moves and shit spits at
I
you.
know you said you caught the nun with that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
I wish I had a
so
chance
like
to do
instead
that.
of just watching something, you're actually
Wait. Shit spits at you?
yeah, like actually a
like
turd
mist,
log.
like the shit mist thing in there.
No, you're sitting in the
I
seat.
definitely don't want to watch interactive porn though when it comes out.
I know you're like sucking some dude's dick. You're like, hey, this 4D movie's great.
Okay, sign me up.
Went right to gay porn.
Joe's like, did you say 4Ds?
Like, oh yeah, I saw that movie 3 times. No, but I mean, like, it's instead of just watching something, now you're experiencing something. Meaning, like, the sound is all,
Yeah.
doing weird shit.
Temperature,
The
chair
lighting.
moves a little bit.
Yeah,
You know,
I went
the
to
smell. They
the smell.
pump smell. So if there's a scene with the ocean, you know, they fucking pump that like ocean smell. It's I think that's
the
pretty
best
intense.
one that I experienced so far was actually at the
Girls, One
Boston Science the Boston Science Museum. It was a 15-minute clip, and during a snow scene, it actually snowed inside the theater. I was like,
That's
man, this is cool, man. This is, and you know, I saw The Nun in 4D up in Revere, Massachusetts, I think it was, and literally The Nun was a flop. It was like, this movie's not that good, you know, but with 4D, it made it good.
But she like rides you in the third scene. It's really interactive.
Yeah,
Man.
like you know, like every time there was like a scary like jump part that made you like kind of jump out of your seat, something hit you in the back. And you're like, what the, you know, like it just the whole thing. It was just like
weird.
it was an experience,
Sure,
you know.
there's like a weirdo behind you.
And yeah, it was Pee Wee Herman and his hard on. He was fucking shooting a load on it.
That's an interactive porn.
I knew it was him because I heard.
He told you to reach inside his popcorn bucket.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it does seem that that's where movies are kind of going. You know, it's got to be tough when you're in, you know, like media like that or the entertainment to keep. Ultimately, you're trying to keep people focused. You know, and
Yeah.
with streaming movies and being able to watch it on your phone from the comfort of your home or wherever you want,
You better
it's
step.
got to be
bring
it's
the bar.
tough to get people to just or Netflix. Like, how do we keep people subscribing? Like, what separates us from Hulu now or anything else? So they started doing that interactive thing, and the only time
think
I
it's
think
awesome.
about
Virtual
anytime I think
reality's
about
coming out.
Netflix, I think of how crazy it is because not very long ago, you know, like when you were growing up, man, if you wanted to watch movies on the weekend, where would you'd have to go somewhere?
Blockbuster.
Where would you go?
Blockbuster was the
You'd have
spot.
to get in your car and drive to the video store. Blockbuster.
Man, do I miss those days.
Blockbuster was the spot.
So-
I remember I used to go to Blockbuster every Friday. I used to
Yeah.
go see what's
Oh, that
new.
was the shit.
And they passed up the opportunity.
To buy Netflix.
To buy
That's where I was
Netflix.
going with this. For how? Do you know for how much, dude?
Yeah, it was some crazy.
Peanuts. Can you look up what
Absolutely.
Blockbuster could have bought Netflix at? Because I know that they had the opportunity, and they're ultimately like just to kind of simplify it, but what their response was like, what streaming? People aren't gonna
What's
stream.
another? You know,
People aren't gonna stream.
50
movies.
million.
50 mil. So
Jeez.
Blockbuster could have bought Netflix for 50 mil. You're looking up Netflix's worth now, correct?
it's crazy.
Hold on. Before you
There's
find
a lot
it,
of instances
what would you
like
say?
this.
What would you say Netflix is worth right now?
Honestly, I have no idea.
$5 billion.
I'm gonna go with 13 billion.
Yeah, I would say about there.
This year skyrocketed from 1.4 to 3.7 billion,
Oh, okay.
So
Well, we're-
and it made the CEO Reed Hastings the 600th richest person.
So let's
in
say
the
they're
world.
worth 4 billion. They could have bought them for 50 million. Just to put that in context.
And now there's
dude,
one Blockbuster.
Hold on.
There's one Blockbuster left.
they're closing down the one in Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're closing. Put that in perspective, right? 50 million. Netflix is worth 4 billion. Before you even get to 1 billion, you have to get to 1,000 million. So like 50 million is peanuts compared to
it's
what it's
almost
worth
you
now.
can't think of like you can't
Oh.
grasp it.
Oh God, whoever's in charge of that decision needs
I mean,
to be
it's kind of
fucking
like
fired.
the guy that said no to the Beatles. Who was that guy? Wasn't he? Or how about the drummer before Ringo Starr? He was like,
Nah,
Yeah,
Yeah,
fuck
how about that guy?
yeah,
You
he
guys
must feel like shit. I'm
You
sure
guys
he's pretty
suck.
dead.
you guys suck.
Yeah, you guys aren't going anywhere.
Pretty dead.
But hey, you know what? I think it happens all the time. Actually, like companies like Amazon, somebody passed up on, or the guy that said no to Bill Gates. Or
Oh my
who
God.
Well, there
else.
was the biggest one was in 2006. It was Yahoo did a handshake deal. The two CEOs, Mark Zuckerberg and Terry Semel from Yahoo, did a handshake deal in 2006 for Facebook for $1 billion. They went back and forth, and they ended up at $800 million, and Zuckerberg basically said no. And then that was 2006. So Yahoo could have literally changed the internet landscape.
For
They
an
would have been the
extra
biggest company
200K. I'm
for-
sorry, 200 million.
Yeah, basically
200 million they walked away from Facebook, and Facebook now is worth what?
a lot.
20
I
something
mean,
billion.
but it's easy to play money more than quarterback, right? Like when we look at those situations now, it's like
hindsight.
yeah, hindsight's always
It's
2020.
fun
Not,
to talk about though. Some fucking
no, of course, I'm not
stupid
saying it's
millionaire
not.
missing
Well, it's
out
kind of
on
like
billions.
if we prospect some people to invest in us, you know, in our podcast. You know, they'd be like, "Oh, I don't know. You guys don't really
This
have
is
Yeah,
where
the
you
stats.
guys,
This is where
you
you
guys say
this is
the
where you
N
put your
word an
email
awful
address.
lot.
So if you're interested in
Yeah,
getting
it's-
involved at the ground level, you can reach me or you can go to our YouTube page, click on the email address, and let us know.
Right now, we're selling for shares for free.
Are we on? Are you on Facebook yet?
Oh, we're on Facebook.
You're on
We're on
Facebook?
everything. Catch us on Facebook, catch us on YouTube, catch us on SoundCloud. A lot of places you can
I
listen.
post this on Insta.
About
You
to have
can
an
come
actual
right to
website.
Jade's
I mean-
house.
I mean-
About to have an actual website. I guess George is saying yes then.
These guys might not know who they're talking to today, except for you two. Like, I don't know if they know who I am or.
Probably better that way.
Yeah, it's probably better.
We got Joe Spring.
It gives a little bit of
now, so-
mystery to the podcast.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
like it.
Who's
J
that?
squared
Hopefully it's
and
not my last
two
time on here,
random
so-
guests.
So hold on a second. How do you pronounce your last name?
Willowitz. It's in Polish. It's Vilevich, but in
Vilevich?
yeah,
Vilevich.
but in English it's Willowitz. It kind of just gets
I don't
butchered to
speak
Willowitz.
Spanish.
Before we forget, I don't want to get too sidetracked because we just talked about Amazon almost getting purchased by somebody. But
Bezos.
speaking of Amazon,
Did we talk about Amazon?
speaking of
Well,
Amazon,
somebody passing up on
hold on.
Oh, that was Facebook.
Bezos.
Yeah, that was Facebook.
Jeff Bezos. How about his wife divorcing him? They're getting a divorce. You guys see that today?
No.
Jeff Bezos, bro. They're getting divorced after 25 years of marriage. How fucking can anybody be safe? He's worth like 138 billion.
I think there's a point though when you make so much money, it doesn't even matter.
Just cut that in half.
Like,
now.
what's the difference
Let me
between,
ask you
let's say,
this.
50 billion and 40
After
billion?
that,
Like,
it just
who cares?
it becomes a contest. I know
It's
one.
It's
I
just
know
the
one
money
guy
that's going to be left over when you die. Like,
Well, I know
the
one.
cost of the cost of things don't really change that drastically. So I mean, like anything that a 50 billion
so let me ask you this because they obviously have
could make the 40
the
billion.
issue with the divorce over how much she gets. And some cats on my job were saying today, that anything she gets should be considered a bonus. Where I'm like, because they're saying, well, he's a mastermind behind everything, and
It doesn't matter if it goes
I
to the
feel
if
like
it goes
that
to the
could-
court again. It's going to end up
Well,
saying
forget
like,
about the
half
court.
and
Let's
half.
talk about our.
well, it's either
opinions.
half and half, but they end up arguing saying, what's her lifestyle like now, and how much would
Right.
it be to support that lifestyle, and it always ends up to be half.
Well, let's forget about what it's going to be legally. Like, I'm more interested in what our thoughts are, what it should be. Like how much did she contribute? Because my first thing, and I could be reaching with this, but if he was able to make this happen and bring Amazon to what it was today, because of her support. Let's say that he's able to put in 80 hours a week or 100 hours a week because she's at home, she gave up her career, and she's taking care of the kids in the house all the time. And that enables him to get that much work done, then I feel like she's entitled to half. Like it's equally hers at that point because he's not able to do that without her.
Do they have kids?
I don't know. Okay.
Well,
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 just
that's
just
it's a important
entering
aspect of
entering the
that argument.
contractual legality of marriage, you're saying that you're giving up half of
Everything I have.
everything. Yeah.
and that comes back to what you were saying before about different countries and different ways that people think about things, is because for the past 100 years in the United States, it's or maybe less. It's just if you get a divorce, it's half. So if you ask that question to a lot of people, that automatically they're just going to say half.
Unless you have a
Because- know
prenup.
what I mean?
Hey, listen, I'll give you a fantasy divorce, and you tell me what would happen in this situation. Tom and Giselle. If Tom Brady and Giselle Bundchen got divorced,
They're probably
well, Giselle makes more money than Tom Brady.
right.
So, what are you splitting there? Are you splitting the total assets, the combined assets?
Probably.
Or
I think that's fair. I really do. Even though it's unfortunate in certain instances, sort of like this one, whatever. But when it's sort of like your house. Like, when you marry somebody, you're not saying, unless you have a prenup, hey, this half of the house is mine, this half of the house is yours. This all works. Maybe Jeff Bezos couldn't do it if he wasn't married at the time. Who's to say that, he still would have been that successful, Who knows what she actually contributed behind the scenes? Maybe she gave him a fucking handy right before he thought about the fucking idea, and that's what made him think about it.
I'm not going to sell books. I'm going to sell everything.
Yeah, whatever. It could have been anything.
Well, so do you think it should just be 50-50? Is that your opinion, that it should just be 50-50 in a divorce?
In a very, unfortunately, and I hate even fucking saying it, but in a very, if we're going to blanket statement and kind of just put everything on an umbrella, absolutely. But sort of like what Chris Rock said, like, if you're making $100 million a year and you got to give $50 million to your spouse because you're getting a divorce, you're not going to be hurting that bad. But if you make $30,000 and you got to give up 15,
right? Like,
You're hurting.
Let's put it this way. Like, but what if you built this podcast up to be something that was, I don't know. Let's say like you were making, $100K a year.
right?
okay, and you know you and your significant other were married,
Yeah.
okay,
And it was all me, really.
of course, and then you got divorced. How would you feel the same way?
Absolutely. I'd have to just by
And you had no kids together.
because the
Because you have
reality.
kids together, it changes things, right?
Absolutely.
Because now it's about the kid, and it's like, okay,
let's-
I can give a shit about her, but like,
That's what R. Kelly said. Take
Damn.
take
I want to piss on you,
I
pee
can't
on
practice
you.
it. Okay, where?
take the kids out of the equation, and if it was just you have to because, well, number one, I have options. I don't have to enter a marriage, and
But I'm not saying
I can have a prenup if I want. So
Right.
if it's that
But this is
concern,
barring that stuff. Like, this is saying, okay, you entered into that arrangement without a prenup.
right?
And this is what you built. This is all fantasy, right? This is what you've built, you know, this up to.
Yep.
Or let's take this out of it. Let's say you just, you know, you earn that much in poker.
Right.
Okay? And you built yourself up. There's nobody that's helping you there except the dealers.
Well, no,
Right.
that's actually not true.
Well,
For
but I'm
instance,
saying you couldn't necessarily say, okay, like this my significant other helped me out with that.
absolutely you could.
How?
Because if you're
Well,
able
put
to
it
go
this way.
play poker for all that time, that
Maybe
could be
she's taking
because
care of the
she's
house.
taking care of the house.
Maybe she's maintaining the house while you're, you know. It's hard to say.
Okay, you got me
because-
there. All right.
Yeah.
I get it. But I guess
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, of course. Like,
That's what I mean. It's hard to put a value on what her actual contribution to
and
the,
I agree
Right.
with
the
that.
success of the company.
It's kind of
is,
like the
you know?
military. Like you got your guys, your special ops guys that go in and they, you know, they're the face, the poster of the military. They're the ones that are kicking doors down, right, over in the Middle East. But then you have your finance guys that if they're not doing their job, they're stateside. They're not in a war zone. If they're not doing their job, well, then these guys can't do their like
They're not
everything's
getting
kind of.
paid, and they're going to stop doing
Yeah.
what they're doing.
And if the cook doesn't peel the potatoes, well, then these guys can't eat. And, you know, so everybody's job is important, and it's all you know, it's a teamwork thing. So I mean,
I was wondering how someone got to the idea of a prenuptial agreement, right? Like,
Oh, very simple. I'm worth way more.
Yeah,
than
somebody
you are
was
worth.
somebody was rich and they
I
said
don't
I'm
want you
not
taking
I'm
my
not giving
shit."
it away if it goes wrong.
right.
Yeah.
So what you're saying basically is that's never going to happen to average Joe and Jane, right? Because if
Well, it could because that's if you make it together. But say I'm already worth 10 mil, and I meet you, and you're just you're worth 30K.
which is the
But we fall in love.
which is the
Why too
reality
loud?
today.
If
Oh.
that happens,
You're
then
worth
of
more
course,
than me, and
then
we're in
there's a
love.
prenup, and those prenups I'm sure could include deadlines too. Like, hey, if you decide to divorce me within 2 years, you're not getting half. 'Cause
Yeah, there's so
you
much
just
legality.
You did this just to get the money. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of legality into it. I
and
get
I'm not
it.
really well versed on prenups.
No,
and divorce,
but it's
so
just
don't
it's just
take
like
what I say
interesting to think
worth
about,
anything.
and that's why I brought up like the Tom and Giselle because you talk about like Tom Brady who obviously has money, and you talk about Giselle who has
More money.
and it's just like okay, and they have kids together. So how do you if they got divorced? How does that how do you? And I think that's why a lot of people who acquire wealth together end up staying together.
Well, they
for
make a good team.
Yeah, for such a long time because it's like, okay, we're not in love. There's nothing going on in the bedroom, maybe the handy that you're talking about, but there's nothing other than that going on.
It's just a really well-maintained partnership.
Yeah.
Let me
So it's
ask
like
you
only
guys a
because of
question.
business at that point, right?
Let me
Jay-Z
ask you
and
guys a
Beyonce.
question. So, like,
Holla.
let's say if you guys
Holla.
won the lottery, you are married to your significant others or whatever.
Why did you point at me and him?
I'm
Yeah,
just,
you did do
you know,
that.
whatever.
He did
Oh.
a circle.
Oh, he did
Yeah.
do a circle. Are we all married?
Would you stay with your significant other? I can understand why people divorce after winning that much money.
Are you asking me that if I won the Powerball, if I would leave Sasha, the mother of my children?
Yes,
I believe that's what he was asking.
that's exactly what I'm asking.
And would you then?
Leading the witness.
Of course.
Sorry,
not.
Sasha.
Of course not. You know what's funny is it's funny that you say that because I know a lot of people that they hide shit. Like if they win money or whatever the case is, they say,
People
"Oh, don't tell
change.
my wife." No. But
Well, money
like
changes people.
anytime say whether it's poker or gambling, scrap. Anytime I come into like something that's good, extra money or you win a jackpot or something, a couple extra thousand, you win at poker. I'm excited to tell her about it. I feel like, hey, that's us, and I feel like that's kind of where the difference is.
Yeah. That's awesome though if you have a partner who is supportive of the
Right,
things that you
right.
enjoy doing. You know what I mean?
True that. Just say, hey guys, we've been going for a little while. We're gonna wrap this shit up. Joe Sprague,
Thank you.
thanks for coming tonight.
Appreciate it.
Before we go though, where can everybody find you?
Tinder.com.
Tinder and Grindr and we're all.
That's not true.
PLF.
You got any dates coming up?
Link in the description.
No, sometimes we just have our peeps on here, man. Our friends. You don't really have to be a local celebrity with a big following to be on the show.
Shut up.
That's right. Shout out to all our friends.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. We out. Peace.
Later.
Peace.